And now, from Grid Square Echo Mike 48, this is 100 Watts and a Wire.
Well, hello and welcome. Amateur radio amplified on 100 Watts and a Wire. It's Christian, and my call sign is Kilo Zero Sierra Tango Hotel. Whether you're an experienced ham radio operator or just getting started, this podcast was created to mentor, entertain, and provide a community for radio enthusiasts around the world. You're listening to episode number 391. Tune in to the live recording every Sunday at 6 p.m. Central, or subscribe wherever you get podcasts. And if you have a question, put a Q in front of it, and we will try to help. Also, my friends are here. Steve, W7UDI. Whoa, I jumped off the thingy. And Scotty is here, KC3BXN. What's going on, fellas? What's going on? We were practicing a little bit of voice work, I guess you would call it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know.
It was.
Hello to everyone who's joined us live in the chat. We appreciate you. And boy, oh boy, can I tell you guys, we are sitting at 54 degrees here at game time. It got up to 60 here today. Yesterday, much colder. Steve, what's happening out there in the great Northwest?
Oh, just a pretty nice day, other than the wind is blowing like crazy. 24 miles an hour right now. Mid 40s, so it's a blustery day here in central Washington. But overall, it's been a pretty good week weather-wise.
Friends here in the chat, put your temperatures and where you are in there, and Scotty and I will we will charge you a little bit of money for the shipping, but we will give away 67 nano pluses tonight on this very episode. Scotty, what's going on out there in the East Coast?
Not much. It's a nice weekend in the mid-Atlantic area. We were about a little chilly today, but not too bad. 45. It was a little breezy, but it was sunny. And I think we're going to be having a warm spell here later in the week where temps will be getting into the 70s.
Dang.
Wow. It's going to be one of those weeks. It seems like we have it. I don't know. I can't say the same for Steve. He's so far up north of us, but from where our weather is to where Scotty is and the folks on the East Coast, it's like 2 days later, they end up getting that same sort of pattern is what I've pieced together. So you've got some good days coming for sure. Did anybody get to play radio? I know we somehow managed to get on the air on Friday night and make some contacts and have a small group together, which was really cool. Other than that, I was pretty empty on my radio work. How about you, Steve? What's happening?
That was pretty much it. Friday night was the only night so far this weekend. Yesterday I was fairly busy, and today just kind of a little here, a little there, kind of screwing around with setting up a new mode here the last couple days. So just kind of playing a little bit of radio and kind of goofing off in the shop.
What about you, Scotty? You got to do any fun radio, anything? You were there on Friday. All three of us were on the radio on Friday, 40 meters, having a good time. Did you get to do anything this weekend or last week at all?
Not much. Friday night was about it, and it was a lot of fun. We had some cool new folks we got to chat with. And yesterday I was just getting chores and stuff done, running around. So not much radio time other than Friday night.
And we met a new friend on Friday night, 81 and a half years old. His call sign is escaping me at the moment, but I have it written down.
I got it here.
We all have it around here. Oh, it was Tony. It was KP4DDS. KP4DDS.
Yep. Kilo Papa 4 Delta Sierra.
Yep. Tony in North Carolina. And he was such a blast to talk to and a wealth of information, and hopefully we'll run into him again on the air. And got an email, a real nice email from a friend up in Canada, Alan. I believe Alan. Hopefully he's checked in. If you are new, put new in the chat. We'd love to meet you. It's a good, friendly bunch there, and perhaps anchored by our friend Ricardo, who's been running with us since like the beginning. And he was around when I wouldn't say defected from Ham. What was it? What's that show called? Ham Nation. That's right. Damn. How soon we forget. It's only been, 8 years, 9 years, whatever it's been. But Ricardo's been with us a long time, Steve. He lives in what they call paradise in Florida. And we're trying to get that invitation, we gently nudge him to say, it'd be kind of cool, come visit you, man. No invitation ever comes out of that. It's just like, don't know about you so much, but we try to hint around.
He knows us better than we
He
do.
knows. It would be trouble. We'd have to have some kind of contingency plan. A plan B, you're not going home to the family. But if you're new, put new in the chat, we would absolutely love to meet you, and so would the friends in there as well. And I saw the point .01 female is here tonight with us as well. Unless we've already scared her off. She probably just came for the music. But Sheena has checked in. Hello to Sheena. We appreciate you. I think we have maybe one other lady, but I'm not positive about that. Oh, Ricardo says, come on down. That is still not an invitation to shelter and feed us. It's just like, come to Florida and don't call me. I'll be working.
They'll just ditch us onto the beach and leave us.
Yeah. Which might not be bad. It might not be a bad thing.
I think Coney KP4DDS may be joining us in the chat here.
Okay, cool. I hope so. Is that Padres Porch? Padres Porch? KP4DDS? Or they may just be letting us know who that was. But
maybe.
Yep. Let us know if you're new. We'd love to meet you and mix it up there. If you have a question about anything related to amateur radio or life, drop it in the chat. Put a Q in front of it, and then we'll pull it as we go. So, Steve and Scotty, the Bouvet, I feel like we've been talking about this quite a bit, and I think it's worthy. It's worthy of it. I read some stories, and the first actual contact on Bouvet was it 1951 or 1957? I saw an article today about it, that it has been, people have been there before, but, that was the first actual contact, and that was in DX, I think it was in DX Summit. I don't know. We'll post it up. It's in our Discord under the Bouvet Island channel, and we're kind of reminiscing now, or at least putting our thoughts together with regard to that DXpedition, because it's over now. They're on their way home, and all that sort of stuff. But I wanted to talk about that a little bit, because last week we really did rail. Even Scotty was like, you guys dropped the S-bomb a couple times. And he was like, I don't know, man.
Jerry had a private conversation with me. He's like, you got to keep those boys in line.
Yeah, Sherry pulls him over like, they start dropping the S-bomb. It's getting kind of weird. And I know this is a podcast and all, but still, it's still the S
family
word.
Podcast. So
it's a family podcast. We've got .01 ladies listening, so be appropriate, fellas. But all jokes aside, it ended, and it was one of those weeks, and I think we hit it the last couple weeks. We may be a smaller on, say, YouTube and whatnot, because there definitely are some much bigger channels on YouTube, and we use it as a tool here. This has always been a podcast, and so that's always important for us, but it's an important tool over there. So I don't know that our message always is amplified as much in that realm, but there was a lot of commentary coming out, and some of the big guys, Josh, I don't know Josh's call sign, but it was the first piece of content that we haven't made that I've watched in a long time. And I thought it was great. I had to drop him a line. I'm like, I'm glad that he said something, because he's got the biggest stick, if you will, in terms of the ham radio on YouTube, maybe in America. I don't know about overseas, and I'm not following it all, the game, as much, but I watched it, and I thought what he said was on point. It really echoed what we've been talking about, the feelings, that go with it. So again, I feel like we've been beating it for a little bit for a couple of weeks here in the best way possible, but I figure we could spend a little bit of time reflecting on the importance of an activation like that, and maybe put some closure to it. I imagine when the fellas get back and that team gets back home, we'll try to talk to them. We'll see more. They're going to be giving lectures, I guess, with maybe radio clubs or some hamventions and that kind of stuff. You're going to hear from them again. I'd like to have somebody come on the show at some point. Steve, let me start with you. As this thing packs back up, what are your thoughts as it comes to a close?
Well, I'm glad they got off the island safe and they're on their way home. And I'm pretty proud of the team for what they did, for what conditions they had to deal with. They planned the best they can, the best they could with based on the information they had. And but Mother Nature kind of came along and said, "I know you can't. We're going to make it tough for you." So they got on the air. They only did, just under 20,000 QSOs. So, which is great because we got to remember the last two attempts, those folks never set foot. They just sailed by, and these guys got on the island. Now, the unfortunate part was they were restricted to that section of the island. There's one other part of the island which was kind of on the northwest corner of the island, which would have actually benefited us here in the North American continent. But they weren't allowed to land over there. There's a Norwegian weather station and a building, but the authorities said, nope, you can't land there. You're not setting up there. This is the only place you can basically set up. So they were, this is what they got. There was a lot of high expectations. There was they thought they were going to be able to make a huge contribution and make about 200,000 Qs. I figured that was before they announced that they were shooting for 200,000. I figured that's what they were going to go for. Well, they only got 10% of what they were shooting for. But still, 10% is better than no percent like the last two expeditions. Am I disappointed that I didn't get a chance to work them? Yes, I am a little disappointed, but you know what? I don't care. There'll be another time, whether I get it or not. It's not a big deal. I liked what they did. They adapted. They overcame. They started to use FT8 mode. Later, to come to find out, their clock was off by 14 seconds. And so, and FT8 is a very time-sensitive program and mode. So a lot of it didn't make any sense what was going on. But after they said, yeah, our clock was off 14 seconds, it's like, okay, it's, that made a lot of sense because it was, wow, why is it? They're saying they're operating on even and they're operating on odd and da 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 da, and there was just a lot of confusion. So, but I think these operators weren't skilled in the FT8 mode. They were more what I call traditional operators with CW sideband, and FT8 is a new mode. It's a new mode for everybody, and this is the real first big expedition since we've been kind of in the lockdown. So everybody's rusty. But for me, I need to make changes on my end. I didn't have anything to work on 30 meters CW or 17 meters FT8. I was hoping to get them on sideband. I only heard them once, and I was like barely in between all the band cops and stuff. And I think that's a lot of that. There's a lot of frustration there. I think these guys are getting a lot of the brunt of it, which is undeserving of them because of the mispractices or the low lives of our fellow hams that were interfering and causing problems and trying to be the band cops and chastising people that didn't know how to set up split or they forgot. It was just unfortunate, and people are frustrated, and it's like, hey, but the main thing is they're getting home. We hope they'll be home safe and sound back to their families, and I'm really want to hear the stories. That's the big part. It's the adventure, getting there and getting home. It's not the activation. I mean, that's secondary, but the trip, that's the cool part.
Want to correct Josh's from Ham Radio Crash Course. He's KI6NAZ, and he's working hard. He's been doing it for a long time, so I appreciate what he's putting in. I know the level of work that it takes, so hello to Josh from 100 Watts and a Wire. Scotty, it's coming over to you here, but what I mentioned on the Ham Radio Crash Course video was the fact that they didn't owe us anything, and we've talked about that. So the people who were getting angry, the people who were being douchebags, they somehow feel that they were owed something different or they would have done something better. I would venture to say these guys would have froze to death with a pocket full of cold hot dogs in the thing, thinking, and just froze out, and that they aren't really suited for what it took. There was I read the article, again, it's posted in our Discord, in the Bouvet channel, where one of the members of the team describes, it's a 3-parter. It's a good read, but part of it's talking about how they had to go, him and another guy, had to go to the island by themselves without shelter and spend the night out there, perched up under like a large rock and spend the overnight there, basically without any supplies, So in terms of the difficulty and what they had to endure, I would imagine a lot of people who are being critical could not have coped with just the ride on the boat to the place, let alone those other aspects of your life that you're giving up. And one more last point, they didn't do this for us. I think it's important that you understand that they did this. It would be like me and a group of us going to do something that we decided to do, that we decided to pay for, that we provided the logistics for. We paid the fuel, we bought the money, we bought the food, and we decided to go. And as a side effect, the ham radio community would benefit from this cool thing that we put together. So the notion that these ham radio operators thought this team owed us anything, and I mentioned last week that they didn't even have to tell us. They didn't have to tell us they were going. Just imagine it, it just cropped up, or that you lived in the 40s, that you couldn't read about it instantaneously, or you couldn't see spots on your whatever it's called, your spotter or your logging software, or your waterfall on your radio. Anyway, I feel like I'm beating up the same old thing here, but Scotty, take it away. What did we miss, man?
No, I mean, you guys covered it pretty well. What I didn't realize, I didn't realize that they had to set up on that specific part of the island. I didn't realize that the Norwegian government was kind of confining them to a particular spot. And then when you start to see some of the video they've released of them getting stuff on the shore, and there's guys in wetsuits. These aren't experienced divers or anything. They're jumping in freezing waters in a wetsuit, trying to run a line from a buoy to the shore, and then they're trying to rope stuff in on Zodiacs, which were getting banged up in the shore. One of them, I think, ripped a hole in one of them, and they lost some gear. And when you see all that, you see that they were.
That's why they slept up next to the rock, because their tent went in the drink.
And then going on through all that, and then the choppy seas, the weather, and they get the one tent set up, no heat. They're sitting on buckets with a couple radios and a couple wires up. The fact that they went through with it after all that, to still get on the air and stayed as long as they did it's great. It's and hopefully once that gets out more, that the harsh conditions that they really were under, and imagine the pulling off what they did. Hopefully, it'll make people that are talking crap about them feel a little bad for themselves.
Well, just remember, when we go and do our DXpedition to Gummy Island, we don't want to hear about this. And when we hear about it, we're just going to go, come on, gummies.
Gummies for the win.
So it's kind of like, what is that thing? Charlie in the Chocolate Factory. It'll be like Scotty in the Gummy Factory. We're going to be going there. Brand new movie coming your way. Coming to Fox in spring. All right, it's time for us to take a look at this week in radio history. February 22nd, 1857. Scotty was just in short pants. He's in short pants tonight, but it's mostly like Angus Young, AC/DC type of thing. Heinrich Hertz. He was born in Hamburg, Germany. February 22nd, 1916. This is getting to where Steve and I were heading into high school. The American electrical engineer Ernst F.W. Anderson. Alex Anderson. Don't correct me live in front of the people. Break it down phonetically. Alpha Lima Alexanderson. This is where my mother writes me, and she's like, Scotty's just got it going on, hon. You ought to just let him read all the words because you're not so good with the words. Ernst F.W. Alexanderson is granted a U.S. patent for a selective tuning system. His work with tuning antennas, directional antennas, tuning systems, and high-frequency alternators were instrumental in the advancement of radio. Thank you very much, Mr. Ernst F.W. Alexanderson. Everybody say it along with us. What else happened? Oh, yeah, and that was this week in radio. All right, you ready, Scotty? It's time for us to... that was the terrible crossfade. For you wannabe DJs, when you're out at the club, don't ever end the music so abruptly that it's just... That's not good. So don't do that. Thank you for your questions. We will put your questions in the queue, and we'll get to those in just a little bit. Scotty, what's going on event-wise in the world of ham radio?
Let's see what we got coming up here next weekend. We have February 24th through the 26th. We have the CQ 160 meter contest on single sidebands. One of your favorites, Christian.
Yes, sir.
Also, February 25th and 26th, the South Carolina QSO party. And also the 25th and 26th, the North American QSO party Riddy edition. A couple of special event stations. We have George Washington's birthday. Whiskey Sierra 7 Golf will be hosting a special event station, and right down the street from Steve in Moses Lake, Washington.
Oh, that's just the next county over. So, Yep, they'll be in George, Washington. There's an actual town named George, and that's where they'll be setting up.
Nice, cool. Also out Steve's way, we have the Cascade Radio Club 75th anniversary of their ARRL affiliation on that special event. And I have some others listed on the events channel on our Discord server. So head on over there and see a complete list of activities for next weekend.
Well, thank you very much. That mouth doesn't work either tonight. It might have been the screwdrivers. In all disclosure, there was not enough stuff to mix with, so I went with OJ, the vodka. It's catching up. It's sort of settling into the place, I guess. On that note, let's talk about our sponsor. They'll love this. PowerFilm Solar and Gigaparts, providing quality solar power solutions for your portable operating needs. To explore PowerFilm's selection of quality products, visit gigaparts.com and search 100 watts. Okay? And there is a very easy way for them to see that there's engagement from this show, and that's what they're looking for. Buy if you like to, but a little secret, because I don't know if they're listening, but that's part of the plan on their end, is to see who's engaged from the 100 Watts and Wire community with their information. So you can help. It's easy and it's free, so think about it. And also, if you find value in 100 Watts and a Wire, you can support the content and the community you enjoy by visiting buymeacoffee.com/100watts. We'll put that up there for you too. It's as easy as buying us a cup of coffee. It's actually cheaper than a real cup of coffee. And a lot of folks are enjoying the monthly contribution option. Our dipole level is just $1 an episode. So it's cheaper than a cup of coffee. Visit buymeacoffee.com/100watts today. And thank you, our new supporters, Jim Lanier and Chuck. Very simple. Chuck. That's it. All right. Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much for that. And now I got to tell you, every now and again, I will put on TikTok. I took a day off or so. I was not feeling great yesterday. I had what they call, I think Steve tells me it's called the squirts. Is this too much? Are we recording? Is this live?
Montezuma's Revenge.
I don't know what the hell was happening yesterday, but it was one of those Cheech and Chong cheek stay together things, and I was like, what is this? Could have been the Greek yogurt, although I love it. But anyway, it's. See, you're supposed to jump in and save me. I told you the problem. There's a problem here. Something was percolating, man, and I was like. Anyway, I do the Tickety Talk videos, and then each week I try to do something every day and just talk about whatever pops into my mind, that kind of thing. And so I asked the people, I'm like, what do you want to talk about? And you have a question, you have a topic suggestion, that kind of thing, and just to engage the people, because that's what it's really about. And we did. We got something, and we put it right into action. So from TikTok, a request from, I don't know his real name, but it's Mawie Belt, Mawie Belt. And this is how we serve the people, Steve. He wanted to know if we could talk about hand and foot push to talk. And so,
okay, not hand and foot in mouth. But
no, not hand and foot in mouth, which I usually do. And I just showed you an example of that about a minute and a half ago, when I put all of my foot, including the boot, right on in there.
This shows a lesson in the hand and foot.
Yeah, it's don't do as we do, kids. Turn away, look away, kids. And I thought, yeah, that's a kind of cool. That is a cool topic, and I remember re-engineering my experience, and Steve can tell you, because he was like, I'm going to send you out this monster foot switch. I got an extra one. And I was like, what? And he was like, you can hook 2 radios up. Do you want to show it to him, Steve? I don't know if it's the same one, but he was like, I'll send this out to you. And I'm like, what is that? Oh my. And that's a commercial product, right?
Yes,
you can buy this off of.
Well, actually, I found this at a Hamfest.
Did you? Okay.
So, yeah, it was.
I think they use them for like under there with the Gordos and the coax, but they use that. It's always under the table.
These weren't under the table; they were on top. So they weren't with the Gordos. But,
just laying them right out there.
They were just laying out, just all for God to see, and everybody. They were just splued across the table.
K0SCH calls a timeout. We're gonna go to a commercial now. Oh Lord, have mercy.
We're gonna throw the flag.
Oh, jeez, they were hanging out. The images that are just flashing up are like, I'm gonna need some therapy. But you know what? The one you were just showing us, and I know that for our listeners who are listening on the road this week, he's showing us a 2-pedal foot switch. And for the folks that are here, you can see this, I believe, Steve, is used for like people who are in the call centers, like dispatch centers for emergencies.
Dispatch centers, yeah. This is
so they can
the typical setup. That's it's very weighty. It's there's a lot of weight to this this pedal here. There's a plate here on the bottom. Let me come back a little bit. So I just got the cord wrapped around, but there's 2 separate switches. So typically in a dispatch center, like a 911 center, they can key up 2 different radios. If one dispatcher is working, say, fire dispatch, the right pedal can be for fire dispatch. If they're doing police dispatch, then the left pedal can be for that. It's whatever the setup is. For myself, these 2 switches are just wired in parallel. So whichever switch I hit with my foot, then I'm keying up the radio. I could, get it to where I could have my left radio on the left switch, my right radio on the right switch, but that just simplified it.
Kind of like your shorts. You got your right Gordo on the right, left. Good God Almighty, Scotty, go! No, let's talk about it. See what happens now. Somebody goes and makes a gesture, and here we are. Steve, before we send it off to Scotty, who's really the imagery right now is really bad. Steve, talk about the advantages of push to talk, and we can do hand or foot. What do you think the advantages?
The typical, a lot of people they like to hold a hand microphone and then talk in that way. But when I'm operating, let's follow me. When I'm here at
look at here.
So when I'm here at my station, I want to have my hands on the keyboard and then because I'm either logging or doing something with the keyboard, then my foot is I just push the switch. So having to put a push to talk on as of a foot switch, it just frees up the hands. But it comes down to personal preference, and it gets a little, you got to get a little bit of. Let's move the camera, and oops, the wrong way. Ooh, whoa, get back here, Steve. Sidecar.
Scotty, go.
There we go. Whoa. There we go.
Oh, Lord. Our listeners are like,
See?
what is going on here?
Spilled my
We're
beer.
out of control tonight.
Sorry, Ed.
Ed. Oh, my
Ed
God. You
spilled his
spilled your
beer.
beer. That's no.
That's a
That is
timeout.
truly
We'll take a
party
second
foul.
timeout.
Oh, that's too funny.
So it just frees up your hands to do whatever you want. Scratch the Gordos or whatever. But
This one will not be going into the Broadcasting Hall of Fame. I can say that for sure. Oh, my. But look,
it just comes down to preference. So if you want to keep your hands occupied, use a hand microphone. If you want to keep your hands free, use a foot switch for your push to talk.
Let's
Ed,
Scotty
clean up in aisle 5.
Clean up in
Your beer. That's
Scotty is one of us who took this very seriously. So our friend Molly Belt, when I mentioned this to Scotty was like, on it, man. I want to talk about this, and we'll send it over to Scotty to give you some elementary, fundamental type insight. Check this out. Scotty's here. Show us more.
See, push to talk switches. Yeah, that's one of those things that's actually really easy to build. You can build one for yourself. It's literally how the circuit works. It's you're just taking a wire essentially and touching it together, and that's going to close the circuit that fires off the relay that switches your rig over to transmit. If you're looking for a push to talk switch, they are kind of expensive if you buy the commercial ones. I was looking on web, and it's $35-$40 for a handheld switch and $70 to $90 for a foot switch. But this is really something that's really easy to build, or you can repurpose some things that you already have around the shack. Let me change my camera view and show you a few things that I got here. So these are some things that I've used for push to talk switches. First one I made was just out of an old CB Uniden hand switch, and I just put a little 1/4-inch jack on the end of it, and kind of utilize that switch that's already there. And lately I've been using this old keyboard sustain pedal, electric keyboard. You can pick these up really cheap. You can get these new on Amazon for like $15. And it's literally plug and play. Plug that right into the push to talk. If you have an RCA connector for your push to talk, you can get one of these little adapters and 1/4-inch to RCA and let it rip. This is a push foot switch for a guitar pedal stuff. It's got a 1/4-inch jack on the back. I can just take a cable and plug it into my push to talk on the rig, right into the pedal, and there we go. And then if you're into the do it yourself stuff, you can actually make one really easy. Here's a cool one with PVC and a simple switch, and you can just drill a hole in the top, put your switch in there, and then whatever cable you're going to use, you only need 2 conductor cable to do this, and then have yourself a little push to talk, a little 1/2-inch PVC piece of cake. And then the connectors, if you're going to be putting your own on, they're typically going to be RCA, and here's a blank RCA connector. Real easy to do. There's just 2 conductors in there, center pin, and then the shield. Or you can put a 1/4-inch plug on there if that's what your rig uses for push to talk. But I'm a big fan of repurposing things, and so I've been using the sustain pedal as my foot switch for push to talk. I was actually using this on Friday night when we were all on the air, having a good time. But it's a really simple project to build. It's fun. You can get creative. You can even take like one of those wedge-shaped door stoppers and drill a little hole, because they're usually kind of empty. They're just kind of hollow, like hard rubber. Drill a hole, put a switch in there, put it on the floor, and there you go. You want what's called a momentary switch for this application. Unless you like to talk a lot, then you can get a latching switch. You can kick it on and just leave it on, almost like a Mox function on your rig. But yeah, lots of cool fun do-it-yourself stuff, or you can repurpose some switches that you may, maybe your kid stopped playing the keyboard and it's got a sustain pedal for his little Casio, and then throw that sucker on your rig and you got your floor push to talk. So
Cool.
fun stuff.
Cool. Thank you for that. Any thoughts on that, Steve?
Another little item here is they make these. The key is it's you can just stick bare wires into the end here, and then screw terminal if you don't know how to solder. And they come in various plug forms, but they make these in a RCA jack. So a lot of options out there to in case you don't know how to solder anything.
That's great. That's great. Yeah, I got one that was sort of like the one Steve had, but it was a single. And there was an accordion. I bought one. It was kind of like the accordion foot switch for a piano or a keyboard. And there was a polarization swap that I had to do. It was actually something was reversed, and I had to switch the wires, and then it worked great for that. But the problem I had was it was so light that it was like the drummer without any carpet. It's moving across the floor. And so the weight, and somebody mentioned in the chat, Ed said the sewing machine pedals. That's kind of what this reminds me of. If you can get that wired up, it's got a little weight to it. It won't slide, or put a, rug. So some of the things are probably light. Guys like this, but I with the handheld, I'm doing the hand push to talk thing. For me, I think I needed both hands to type. I didn't really want to. I thought the foot switch was more for me. What else did we need to talk about, Steve, on that? I thank you for that suggestion too, talking about that. And if you have any questions, Molly, drop us a line, and Scotty can shoot you an idea, some bullet points on what you would need to do, or replay this back again, that kind of thing. But that was really nice. Thank you, Scotty. Steve, anything else we need to think about? Considerations, possible failure points, that kind of thing?
Yeah, I mean, there's just sometimes the wiring gets frayed, and your push-to-talk switch doesn't push to talk anymore. So you got to troubleshoot that. Another option is using Vox. I'd be very, very careful about using Vox because if you don't have it set up properly, it'll pick up noise in the background. Or if you have Vox set up and then you get into an argument with your dog or cat that or spilt something, and you're cussing and swearing at the dog or cat, and you'll be going over the air. Or if you just happen to fall asleep in the chair and you start snoring, boop,
I've heard it.
You're all over the air. So that's another option is Vox. But I like to push to talk via the foot is my preference of choice. So it all comes down to what you're comfortable with and what you want to do. Someone mentioned the Heil foot switch, and there's his foot switch has two cables that come out. One that goes to the radio, and then another one that will plug into your amplifier. And so that's another way of if you have an amplifier, keying up your amplifier with the Heil foot switch. So there's options out there. So it just comes down to your operating preference.
It's Michael. Michael suggested that people have different names on TikTok, but it's Michael, Kilo India 5, United Tango Sierra. Thank you, Michael, for giving us the topic, and it was fun to explore that. I didn't make mine. I ended up getting mine from a commercial place, and again, the one was too light, and I pushed it around the floor too much, and then I wanted something sturdy in that line. So that's what I did. But, like Scotty said, you can make it out of things you got laying around, and PVC, all this sort of stuff. So there you go. Drop us a line if you have any more questions about that, Michael. Appreciate that. It's time for us to take a look at some of the Hamfests and get to the questions of this week. If you have a question, put a Q in front of it, and we will put it into our queue and work on answering those. But Scotty is here to tell us about the Hamfest happening this month. Scotty, go.
All right. Picked a couple for the show. See, we have the February 25th, the HamCon ARRL Vermont State Convention happening in Colchester, Vermont. Also on the 25th, Hiawatha Amateur Radio Club's Winter RF Fest in Perry, Iowa. And I've also listed a bunch of others on the events channel and our Discord server, so you can always take a look over there, see if there's one happening in your neck of the woods.
Yeah, and if you have a club or you have a gathering happening, let us know. We can share it to our events channel. We can also mention it here to the folks who are listening and watching, of course. Drop us a line. Our contact information is in the description. And also, I forgot to mention that we had a Zoom room set up. I don't know if people are over there trying to get in. Oops, there are people trying to get in. Sorry, we'll let you in now. Please stay muted, and we will try to bring you into the show as we go. And you want to learn more about 100 Watts in a Wire and our community, visit 100wattsinawire.com. You can check out the podcast archive, register for a 100 Watt ID, and pick up a 100 Watts in a Wire sweatshirt, sticker, mug. Other merch is in our shop. It's an easy way to look fly and support the content and the community you enjoy. And you'll find all of our other social media outlets there, like the TikTok and YouTube and Discord. It's all in there, like Ragu. That's 100wattsinawire.com.
It's in there.
.com. All right. Thank you very much. We've got a slew of questions, and I believe more will be coming in as we go. Thank you for all your comments and suggestions and things that are happening. Let's take a couple that were sent over. Dennis had a question. How likely do you think that this bad experience will discourage future expeditions? Great question. Thank you, Dennis. Steve, go.
I don't think it will discourage. No, it's... in fact, it will probably get the guys of the next coming DXpeditions, wherever they're going, they're going to start rethinking, kind of going, maybe we need to start incorporating this newer mode FT8. It's becoming a more mainstay mode that's going to be here for a while. And a lot of these traditional DXers are a little... weak on that mode, and I'm one of them. I am super weak on it. I'm just finally getting into the mode, and we throw that into the arsenal. And so I think you're going to start seeing it more and more cropping up. It's going to be a mode that a lot of people can take advantage of it and make those contacts. So I think that's going to happen, and probably some more pre-planning and contingency planning, and it'll just depend on how the DXpedition, where they're going and what's going to happen. But I think this is a positive step. It will, we'll learn from it and move on.
Yeah, I agree. Can't add anything more to that. I think they're going to be cool. They're going to go do what they need to do, and it's just noise. Anybody who's giving them grief, it's just noise. I would imagine there was some good commentary came out of that, but would we go as far to say that outside of the team being the star of this DXpedition, FT8 really did it for them? I mean, really made those numbers go up. What are your thoughts? Scotty, over to you first. The role FT8 played in the Bouvet Island DXpedition.
Well, given the circumstances with their lack of gear, not being able to get any amplifiers on the island, not getting any of their big antennas up, only being able to just throw up a couple wires and then work barefoot. From that location, FT8 was probably the only chance they had of getting any sort of count in the QSOs. I know there's some European stations, and they were able to work single sideband voice with some of those guys, but anything outside of that region, FT8 was what worked to get the contacts for other folks around the world.
Don has a question. Go ahead.
Yeah, and had they had it set up properly, I think they would at least doubled the number of queues that they had when they went home. They just had an operating error. They were off. Their timing was way off, so that just kind of complicated it. But I think if they were on time and had their computer synced, and they could have just they didn't have internet capabilities on the island, but every radio can pick up WWV and you can set it there. It's a manual setup, and you could have went, okay, every time there's a shift change with an operator, first thing you do, make sure the computer is synced up to WWV, and off you go. And I personally think that if they had that right, we would have had maybe a DXpedition that would have been maybe 50,000 Qs, and that would have kind of tamped down a lot of the keyboard commandos and the basement dwellers that were complaining about it, that didn't have any skin in the game. And then for these guys, and oh yeah, that's a lot of money wasted. And it's like, no, everybody that, remember, these guys put in half the money. They personally put money into it. Half the total cost was borne by the operators that went. The other half they raised by donations. And when you donate to a DXpedition, you're just going, hey, we hope they're going to be successful. We're pretty sure they're going to be successful, but there's a chance that they might not. Remember, the last 2 expeditions didn't set foot on the island, and these guys did. So it's a win. I don't. You can moan and groan about it all you want. It's a win. So get over it. Move on.
No, Sherry, that's not what he meant.
I know.
Sherry's just bad. I think she's the freaky one here. Don has a question he wants to know for the audio guys. Suggestion for an inexpensive desk standalone mic that would be suitable for Zoom meetings instead of a camera mic.
Oh,
go ahead, Scotty. What the hell?
Oh, I don't know. What's well, first question is gonna be what's your budget? Because they can range from $50 up to several $100. Standalone, just I don't know. I think I don't like something like the Yeti or something like that would probably be suitable, good quality sound for things like Zoom meetings and stuff like that. I'm not too well versed on that line of microphones.
Well, I know the ones that we I don't know. Scotty's got an actual. Well, the one that Steve's using right now actually can be a USB, but like I said, or like Scotty said, it depends on what you want to spend. If it's only for your Zoom meetings, you may just want to sound better than the distance between you and your camera and have something more directional in front of you. Blue Yeti's probably going to cost you $150. They've got other things in that kind of $100 to $150 range. You've got Shure makes one, but I noticed it wasn't very tall. I was like, Shure's got one, ooh-wee, and not, I've got back here, can't see him in this shot here, but the Blue Yeti works really well. It just depends. You want how good do you want to sound in your Zoom? Zoom.
I think
$100
to $150 budget would get something that would be of
50?
acceptable sound quality.
How about just a gaming headset?
For $50
$19, $20 and we're talking Zoom. We're not talking,
Right.
You're making reading a book for Audible or something like that. This is just for Zoom meeting, and you get just a headset, and the microphone's always there. You can move around and go from there. Just and $20, and you hear them on the air. Guys using gaming headsets on HF, and they sound pretty good.
There's a Sennheiser. I don't know if you've seen it, Scotty, but Sennheiser makes a headset that's pretty good for the gamers. Actually, say they like it too. Now, I don't know what it costs, but I don't know. USB mic, $50 range. Maybe a YouTube video may give you some insight on it for $50. But I definitely think you ought to cut that distance between your camera and your mouth. So,
Yeah, that's
anyway.
the big thing.
Good question, man. Thank you for that, Don. We appreciate you, and we will hear from him later tonight as he anchors the first hour of the 100 Watts and Wire Sunday evening net. Let's see. Ish has a question. Since I worked Australia on 10 meters last night, show off. It was VK4KA, bragging. What do I need to work Japan in that same caliber using my 100 watts and a 4-element 10, 11 meter Yagi at 20 feet. Should I need to get it higher, like 40 feet?
I don't think you just need the propagation. So I would imagine work the gray line, and it just happened to that you had that path down to VK land, and just point the antenna towards Japan, and you'll be surprised what you can come up with. This morning, as I was kind of looking at the FT8, I was seeing on 40 meters around 8 o'clock Pacific time, 9 o'clock. I'm seeing just Chinese and Indonesia, a lot of, Far Eastern countries just popping up on the FT8. So I was like, holy smokes, there was some propagation going from this morning from the West Coast to out there into the Far East. So I can imagine just trying to follow that gray line and just kind of keeping an eye and see what's being spotted. But I would imagine there might be a few JAs that are on 10 meters. So you just got to dial around and listen for them and point your antenna towards Japan there, Ishmael.
James asks, Kilo India 5, Oscar Echo Bravo. Any advice for FT8 WW contacts? Scotty, what do you think?
He's I heard he's back on the air. Really no advice. Just you just got to keep an eye on the spots and try to figure out when he's on and go for it. Really.
All right.
Is he operating what they call that, Fox and Hound, or do you know if he's just operating traditional?
That I don't know. When he was off the air for a while, I stopped following what was happening there, and then I just read the other day that they gave him permission to continue on, and I haven't dove back in, so I'm not quite sure what's going on. But I would imagine he's running Fox and Hound, I would think.
Thank you for that question. We appreciate that, James. We're going to have Dennis come in. He's Kilo Delta 9 Alpha Charlie Mike. He's coming to us from the 100 Watts in a Wire Zoom room. If you've got audio and want to drop us a comment, you can do so now, Dennis. We're putting Dennis on the clock here. Can't be leaving dead air. Here he comes. Hey, Dennis.
Hey, how you guys doing this evening?
Great, man. How are you?
Right.
Good. Just enjoying the show. Was on the bands a little bit today. Boy, there was some really awesome propagation into South America, the islands. All the bands seemed to be hopping. 40 kind of went south later on in the day. Really a lot of noise, but it was really a great day for making contacts.
Awesome. That's great. What was your best one of the day?
California.
Nice.
And I'm located in central Wisconsin, so that's a fairly good distance.
Yeah, I think that's great.
I'm only running,
Nice.
the 100 watts in a wire, so I'm pleased.
Any comments on anything we talked about tonight? You can put your opinion out there if you'd like to, sir.
I do have some experience with that Blue Yeti. It is an awesome mic if you want to drop the coin on it.
What are they at, about 150 now, something like that?
Yeah, there's actually a couple of different models. You can get it. There's the standard Blue Yeti, and then there's another one that is upgraded. It's got some additional components in it. Gives you a little bit better sound quality.
Okay.
I think that one runs about 180 or 190. But yeah, I think the suggestion you guys made with the gaming headsets, I mean, that works.
Yeah, I think he just needs to cut that distance down between his, the space between the mouth and the camera. And you're facing the camera is a long country mile in audio, so you want to break that distance down a little bit. But you got to be careful with those headsets, though. Like a lot of people don't know how to put them. They're all in it. It's like super close. They go from being 3 feet away to being right in your bicuspids. It's just picking up everything in your mouth and everything you're eating. And that's a great idea, Alice. Or it's popping. The plosives are just exploding all over the place. But yeah, I agree. There's a way to do that. But it took a while for Zoom folks to get used to that. But your audio sounds good. Thanks for checking in on the Zoom room tonight. Hopefully we'll hear you on the live show coverage tonight. We're doing a little net stuff. So hopefully we'll hear you on the radio tonight if you're near it. Thanks, Dennis. Appreciate you, man.
You're welcome.
All right, we got a couple other questions. Let's see what we can do before we get on out of the way here. We'll be on the air soon. Here comes one for you guys. What does arcing mean? Steve.
Oh, it's basically it's just sparks. So arcing is if your your hot lead is too close to ground, it'll just arc over. But typically in an RF environment, if you're having too much RF coming back, or your RF is not properly terminated load wise, you can be arcing over. You'll have an arc over in a tube if things are mistuned. So arcing is just basically things that go spark, and there's flashing, and it's not. It's you're going to be having a bad day when that's happening.
Yeah, like also like your air capacitors. If you have a tuner with the wind up inductors, you can get arcing between the capacitor plates. And
Well, you had that with your magnetic loop.
my gummy loop project, yeah, I had to put a beefier air capacitor in there because I was getting arc over between the plates on the air capacitor. So it can happen in several different places.
Okay. That makes sense. That question came in after you talked about it on the gummy loop. Another question here. If you have one, drop it in the chat, put a Q in front of it, and we'll take it. What's the difference between upper and lower sideband?
Well, your sidebands it all references to the carrier frequency. So in a conventional AM transmission, you have a carrier. So you're going to have and then you're going to have your sidebands that are going to be either on AM, they're on both sides. So what I'm showing is my hand is up, and then I got my fingers off to one side, and my fingers represent the voice modulation, and the carrier stays the same. Well, so upper sideband is the sideband that's above of the carrier. So if we're at say 14,200, 14.2 megahertz, and we're in upper sideband, all our modulation or energy is going to be above 14.2. If we went to lower sideband, all our modulation would be, and our energy would be below the 14.2. So when you're operating, when you start getting close to the band edges, be very wary where you are and what mode you're operating. So if you're operating upper sideband and you're getting close to the top end of say 20 or 15 meters, you don't want to go anywhere closer than 3 kilohertz of your indicated frequency on your radio, because your radio indicates the carrier frequency, not where your actual RF is. Your RF is actually above the carrier frequency. So be very, very careful when you go towards the band edges. But basically, that's what it is, upper or lower. It's all reference to the center frequency, which is what would be your carrier, and your modulation is either above it or below it.
All right. Very good. Well, thank you for that. Look at us pushing up all the way close to the top of the hour here. But we want to know what you're struggling with. And if you're having an issue, you're having a trouble anywhere within your ham radio life or your life in general, drop us a line and come let us know. Perhaps we can help you. Have questions, you can send them through our social media outlets and all of that jazz. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube and hit the notification bell. That lets you know when we went live. We thought about doing live shows for Bouvet. Alas, I never heard him, Steve. I never heard him. I would have been sitting there like a dick on the live stream like this. I mean, a lot of people are doing that on live streams, just now
sitting around with their Gordos hanging out.
Gordos, and then they forget they're live, and they're like, my Gordo, Charlie and Otis. Come on. Get back in there.
Take it full circle.
Oh, is that a hot dog? Tasty. Uh-oh. Anyway, I didn't hear him. I'm like, what are we going to do? So we didn't go live, but hit the notification bell. That's to see us. You can subscribe to the podcast by any of your podcast directories, and Scotty will get on a bike like Paperboy. He puts his hat on, puts all the podcasts in a basket, and rides through town and throws it from his canvas sack out to the people every morning, the next morning. For our friends here, 7210 looks to be the spot where we'll set up this week's 100 Watts and Wire Sunday Evening Net. Any final thoughts, Steve or Scotty, for the good people listening on their bicycles.
Well, pedal safely, and remember, the vehicle with the most lug nuts wins.
That is deep, man. That is deep. Scotty. I knew it.
Yeah,
I just said it was deep because it was an intellectual thing. Leave him alone.
don't So everyone have a great week, and don't let your meatloaf.
That's another great tip right there. Not just a tip, you get the whole thing tonight from Scotty and Steve. Well, thank you all for joining us, and we will see you all again. Same time, same station, right after Andy Griffith, but right before Good Times. That's when we're programmed. I don't know, it's tough. It's a tough spot. Take care of yourselves. Look out for each other out there. It's crazy sometimes out there. And by all means, if you can, please try and stay above the noise. 7-3, everybody. 7-3, y'all.
Everyone.
To join the 100 Watts in a Wire community, visit 100wattsinawire.com.